I like how he's yelling out all these orders to everybody instead of first telling them what's going on, even though he clearly knows what's going on, and he finally muses to himself that the Borg are on the ship, and I guess it's lucky that the other people in the room happen to hear him.
He says they must have somehow transported over before their ship was destroyed. He tries to contact Riker, but they start losing all controls as they are rerouted through engineering. So Picard tells Data to quickly lock out the main computer, and we see Data moving his hands at super speed, but before he does that, he very slowly steps over to the panel. In sickbay, Beverly very creepily tries to wake Lily up, and then is somehow surprised at her frightened reaction.
Since the Borg are trying to break in, Beverly activates the emergency medical hologram to distract the Borg, who is played by Robert Picardo. And sci-fi fans will obviously recognize Robert Picardo as the voice of Johnny Cab from Total Recall.
I'm Johnny Cab. Where can I take you tonight?
Beverly and the others escape through a crawl space,
Wisely letting Lily completely separate from the group by being at the back of the line. And this scene also gave Beverly more lines than she had in the last movie.
Picard gathers up a posse with rifles and says when they get to engineering, they should try to shoot the plasma coolant tanks. Data says that's an excellent idea because the coolant will liquefy organic material, which made it sound like a terrible idea to me, so I was looking forward to the results.
Picard also tells them to take out anyone they find, even if they're crew members, because they will be assimilated.
Which was really weird and out of character. Picard himself was rescued before, and we've seen that even longtime Borg members like Hugh could be brought to their side, so it was a really weird stance to take. And Worf says that due to the adaptive abilities of the Borg, they will be able to fire 12 shots at most, which was also a weird thing to say. Couldn't they get more shots in if they fired faster? How did he decide on 12?
Back on the surface, Riker finds a drunk Troy at the bar with Cochrane, who was also drunk. Either that or it's just James Cromwell, and they didn't tell him the cameras were rolling.
There are jokes, and then more jokes.
And then we jump back up to the ship, and wildly shift in tone back to the horror action as the crew heads to confront the Borg.
We get an extended montage of people walking down hallways that goes on for 9 minutes and 48 seconds. I timed it.
They find a bunch of vacuum tubes, which Data says is making him anxious, so I guess he's like a dog. So he turns off his emotion chip that he couldn't control in the last movie, but now he can. Beverly pops out of a wall and informs Worf that Lily got separated from the group, neglecting to mention that they put her in the back of the line and didn't even watch her.
Picard's team comes across some Borg units, and he tells them to lower their weapons because the Borg will ignore them until they become a threat. And that fits with what we saw in the show, and it makes just as little sense here as it did there. And for some reason, we get a close-up of Data looking intense, even though he already turned off his chip.
So what would happen if a Borg encountered a Predator?
We would get the greatest crossover of all time.
Well, I was thinking neither of them would do anything, because the Borg would not perceive the Predator as a threat, because it wouldn't be trying to attack it, because it also wouldn't be perceiving the Borg as a threat.
Yeah, maybe that's true.
So it would be the lamest crossover of all time.
Worf and Picard meet up, and Data tries a manual door release to get into engineering, but it doesn't work, and the Borg start waking up. They all start blasting, but pretty slowly, so I was skeptical of them getting off those 12 shots, and in fact, they only get off 9 before the Borg adapt to their fire.
And then Worf rifle butts one in the head. So, realistically, wouldn't some sort of long spear-type weapon be the smarter move here?
But they would adapt to the spear by staying out of reach.
And even after they adapt, Worf continues to be effective by physically beating them down. And I'll point out here that Worf has also had more lines than in the previous movie as well.
And Data also kills some of the Borg, again with a lot of expression in his face, which is weird. Data gets tripped and pulled under a door by a Borg, and then another crewman gets injected with something, presumably as part of the assimilation process, even though we haven't seen it work like that before.
And the crewman who is being assimilated begs Picard to help him, so Picard does.
He kills him in cold blood, showing that he still has some Borg flowing in his veins.
After Picard escapes, he runs into Lily, who takes his phaser and demands that Picard lead her out.
Data wakes up on Ocelot's torture bed, and I wondered how and why he was unconscious in the first place. He's a robot. And I know robots can go into sleep mode, but it was weird.
He tells the Borg he cannot be assimilated, and an unseen voice tells him that they will break him. It's only a matter of time. And then they delicately double drill straight into his head with some really thick-ass bits that don't even look that steady, so I hope they didn't hit anything important.
Yeah, I wondered how they knew what they were doing, or you just pick a random spot and start drilling in like that.
Just get a melon baller and start scooping away.
Down on the planet, Zephram Cochrane is skeptical of Riker's explanation of where they came from and who they are, until Geordi finds the Enterprise in his telescope to prove it to him.
When he asks why tomorrow is so important, Riker tells him that an alien ship will fly by and see that humans can achieve faster than light travel, and it unites humanity while opening up an entire world of possibilities. And I know you love the part where James Cromwell said the actual words Star Trek.
Oh, man.
But I liked it even more when Riker said, actually, we're not the first. We're more of the next generation.
Back on the Enterprise, we see some of the crew being Borgified.
I thought that one guy was Walton Goggins at first. Everyone's still carrying around their rifles too, even though they already know that they won't work anymore.
I mean, I would still carry mine around too, so I don't know.
It's because you're weak. And Worf is confused why the Borg stopped on a specific deck, so they investigate.
Picard tries to explain things to Lily, but she doesn't believe him until he opens a random panel showing her a view of Earth from space. When she goes over to the window, we learn that instead of glass or transparent aluminum, they use a force field, which sounded like the worst possible idea ever. I'm surprised it hasn't failed already with the Borg taking over the ship.
She gives him the phaser, and he says it was on maximum setting, and it would have vaporized him, which is a lie, because we've already been informed on the show that on the maximum setting, a single phaser could take out half of an entire building.
And I was hoping we would get that scene later, but we don't. In engineering, Data asks the disembodied voice for her identity, and she says she is the Borg. And then we see the head and neck of a weird Borgy woman get lowered down into a humanoid body.
That shot looked expensive.
But I still thought it didn't look that great.
It looked pretty good for 96. I would have been impressed.
I don't know, Jurassic Park was 3 years earlier.
Oh, damn, you're right. Alright, it looked like shit. I also noticed that the holes that would be in Data's head were no longer there. The two of them have a philosophical discussion about the nature of the Borg.
And at one point, Data says he is programmed to evolve and improve himself. And the Queen says that the Borg are also evolving toward a state of perfection. And Data demonstrates how much of a super-intelligent robot he is by saying that the Borg do not evolve, they simply conquer. But he used the term evolve to refer to himself, which I would say is far less accurate. And given that the Borg are changing all the time as they assimilate new races and technology, I think it would make more sense to say that they evolve. Anyway, Data's an idiot is what I'm saying. He's just as dumb as the human characters.
They eventually turn Data's emotion chip back on and reveal they've grafted real skin onto his arm, and that he can feel and react to it.
In a very over-the-top way. It's not what it feels like when somebody blows on my arm. I usually recoil in disgust. Picard explains about the Federation and the Enterprise to Lily as they move through the ship, and she starts freaking out when they encounter some Borg, which I thought was pretty funny.
Picard leads them through the group before turning back and firing, and then runs with Lily into a holodeck,
which Picard programs to episode 12 of Star Trek The Next Generation.
Which also has a cameo from Neelix, from Star Trek Voyager, the only cameo from another Star Trek series we see in this movie.
Picard asks for Nikki the Nose, only to learn that he programmed in the wrong chapter, which I thought was pretty funny. He skips to the right point in the hologram story, and when the Borg come looking for them, Picard tells Lily to ignore them and act natural.
He then grabs a Tommy gun and lets loose on the Borg, which works really well.
It's a good thing he remembered to turn on the infinite ammo cheat, because he proves to be a terrible shot.
Why would it even have to be a period-appropriate weapon? Why couldn't he just make a rocket launcher?
Well, that was my question too. Why go through all this trouble of even activating this program when he can just say, computer, give me a huge machine gun turret or something?
Yeah, he could totally pull the Matrix.
When Lily asks how holographic bullets could kill someone, Picard says he disengaged the safety protocols, which didn't answer the question at all.
I said he just left everything on the default holodeck setting.
He digs around inside one of the Borg bodies for a memory chip to learn what its orders were, and is somehow able to connect it to his tricorder.
Before they run out of the holodeck, hoping that their previous clothes would reappear.
Back on Earth, which is now the next day apparently, Geordi calls Zephram Cochrane over, ostensibly to verify some equations, but I think he just wanted to show off his kickin' shades.
And Barclay fanboys all over Cochrane.
And he was the last person I expected to see in one of these movies.
We get a lot of close-ups during this movie of Geordi's eyes and how cool they are with their technology, so why does he need sunglasses?
I didn't even think about that. Cochrane tells Geordi how annoyed he is with how everyone treats him like an idol, and then Geordi proceeds to treat him exactly the same way, showing that along with war, poverty, and disease, empathy is also something that was wiped out after first contact. And then they make some pee jokes.
You can't say that. I want this video to be safe for ads.
Back up on the ship, Picard pops up from a floor panel on the bridge. And when Lily follows and sees Worf, I really liked his way of handling things.
I am a Klingon.
Picard tells Beverly and Worf that the Borg are transforming the deflector dish,
so that the future Borg can connect with the Borg from the current time. Picard tells Worf they're going to have to go outside the ship to deal with the deflector dish, which Worf is absolutely thrilled to hear.